If you're just joining us, we continue to follow breaking news out of the NFL where the Niners and quarterback Brock Purdy have agreed to a 5-year, $265 million contract extension. That's the latest from our NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. $53 million AAV, good for 7th most in the NFL, tied with Jared Goff. $181 million of that is guaranteed. Take a look at the notable offseason moves for the San Francisco 49ers. They went big in the draft, early picks with edge and defensive tackle to help balance things out with all the things in the offseason that happened offensively with Brock Purdy and George Kittle. Niners trying to get back into the NFC West fold and make another run at a Super Bowl. Let's bring in JJ here with that breaking news. What more can you tell us about how this deal got done?
So, Tommy, you and I have been talking for some time. I know your roots there in that area, and it felt like every July into every August, sometimes into September, the biggest names for the San Francisco 49ers were needing a new contract, were holding out for a new contract, were not showing up to training camp, might get traded, might miss week 1. And now look at what this offseason has been. George Kittle goes out and gets paid one last time for his fantastic future Hall of Fame career. And now Brock Purdy, who has been the best bargain in all of sports the last couple of years on that Mr. Irrelevant rookie contract. This was almost as early as Brock Purdy could actually get paid. Literally, the 49ers, even if they wanted to pay Brock Purdy, they could not have done it before the end of this past season. And so it didn't stretch into June. They didn't haggle over money in July before players reported to training camp. He wasn't missing out on a couple of days of training camp, and folks were wondering, wow, what's it going to look like? And, you know, he could get fined, but because he's on his rookie deal, they could waive the fines. No. All sides wanted to get this done. They felt good about getting this done. I started getting some smoke signals maybe about 2-3 weeks ago that by the end of May, this contract could be completed, that this was not going to be like the Niners of the last several years with a Deebo Samuel, a Trent Williams, a Christian McCaffrey in some parts of the summer, a Brandon Ayuk, a Bosa. They wanted to get this deal done. They knew it was going to be in the 50s in terms of average annual value. It was never going to get to 60 like Dak Prescott. That was out of here. But could it be somewhere where both sides felt, Tommy, that this could be a win, that this was respectable? Absolutely, and that's what you get with $53 million a year. Yeah, you're about my roots of the Bay Area. My group chat with my friends are very happy with the deal and said that things did not lengthen or elongate, no standoffs, if you will, when it comes to Brock Purdy. As we're taking a look at his numbers, this contract extension represents a gigantic raise for the former 7th-round pick. Made less than $1 million in base salary each of his first 3 seasons in the NFL, but he led the Niners to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, his first full season as a starting quarterback, and you see the numbers there as the starter, including the playoffs. When the Big 5 play, granted, you have to have all the things that JJ mentioned around him with the talent, but certainly when you find your quarterback, whether it's the top overall pick or Mr. Irrelevant, looks like you want to keep your guy there. We had our former GM, Ram Carthon, joining us here. JJ, he was very much interested in seeing the real numbers. What does that really mean? Remind us what that really means anytime we get a new deal like the ones we're getting today.
Yeah, that's an important point that Ram pointed out, and a lot of the NFL is certainly waiting on the real numbers. Look, here are the numbers that we have. It's 5 years, $265 million for the contract. That's easy to put up in a graphic. We can go ahead and flash the graphic again where he has $53 million in average annual value. That's good, fine, and well, but what does it really mean? Whose contract do you really want? Because the name that you don't see up here is Deshaun Watson, but his entire contract is fully guaranteed. Do you care about being on this sort of page, right? Or do you care about the real money that you get at signing? And so Dak Prescott nearly got his entire contract fully guaranteed. Deshaun Watson got his entire contract fully guaranteed. The rest of the players that you see on here, that's the total guarantees. And frankly, when we talk in the NFL as total guarantees, they actually aren't literally guaranteed. You have to play and play really well in order to make sure years down the road that you actually do get that money. So what is the money that Brock Purdy will get when pen hits paper, so long as he is a fine, upstanding citizen of this country and just plays for the San Francisco 49ers? That is always sort of the difference. And so we will wait to see what those numbers are. Historically, what a deal like this ultimately means is that it is at least a 3-year extension that Brock Purdy is locked in with the San Francisco 49ers for 2025, for 26 and 27, because cutting or trading him would not be a financially smart thing to do for the team. And then after that, it is a we'll see. If he keeps taking them to NFC championship games, if he keeps taking them to Super Bowls and finally breaking through and winning a Super Bowl, we're talking about a whole new Brock Purdy contract 3 years from now. Don't even worry about what this 5th year on this deal is. He'll have a whole new one where he is, at that point, again, one of the highest paid in the NFL.
You're absolutely right about that. And JJ, before I let you go, obviously football fans want to know, is there an inkling of who might be next now that Brock Purdy's off the list on this Friday?
You know, there's not one that is such an obvious this guy's up, right? We had that summer where it was clear when you had a Joe Burrow, when you had a Jalen Hurts in there, a Trevor Lawrence and all those things. It was very clear that as soon as one guy got it, that the next guy out of that group was going to get it. But I took a couple quick notes, jotted those down. Look, Lamar Jackson, who just had a deal done a couple years ago, the Ravens could re-up with Lamar, a perennial MVP candidate and winner. So he's a guy, I don't know that it's going to happen. I don't think that anything's close, but the Ravens GM Eric DeCosta admitted as much a couple months ago, saying we're already thinking about it. Kyler Murray got his deal. He's not coming off a year where you would go break the bank for Kyler Murray, but if he plays well this upcoming season, he could be someone else who could potentially get a deal. And all the young quarterbacks, right? The CJ Strouds, obviously the Caleb Williams, the Jayden Daniels, they're still a couple years away. CJ Stroud's at least a year away from getting a deal. Jayden Daniels at least 2 years away from getting a deal. So there's not that group, that crop of next up like we've seen the last couple of summers. But could the Ravens make a move and go ahead and pay Lamar Jackson, get ahead of the curve? They've already said that's possible. We'll see if that winds up happening.
As you guys have pointed out, you and Rand, you can do some cap gymnastics, and you never know when those deals can come out and extensions can be doled out as well. JJ, certainly appreciate it. Again, taking a look at the Niners schedule. The bottom part of that says easiest strength of schedule at 41% by any team since the 15 Falcons. So talk about a bounce back year for the Niners, who have been close and there at the Super Bowl the last handful of years. 2025 with the addition of
How about this for breaking news in the NFL? From Mr. Irrelevant to a $53 million man. The San Francisco 49ers and quarterback Brock Purdy have agreed to a 5-year, $265 million contract extension that has been confirmed by our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. Talk about dreams come true. The last pick in the draft, who has now made less than $1 million in his base salary the first 3 seasons in the NFL, now making an average annual value of $53 million per year. That is tied for the 7th most money a quarterback is making in the league. Purdy led the Niners to the Super Bowl in the 2023 season, his first full year as the starting quarterback, and you see there some of his accolades as well.